right, welcome to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies inspired it. I feel like I'm very energized for this intro. That's probably good. Maybe it'll get some of you to hit the subscribe button or maybe rate and review us over on Apple Podcasts or Podchasers. Why am I so awake? I must have had a lot of extra coffee this morning or something. But anyway, we've got a great episode coming up for you. We are today going to be talking about The 40-Year-Old Version, a new movie out on Netflix, written, directed, and starring Radha Blank. And it is a great story about a woman discovering her passion and her art and her worth, and it is a great little movie. It kind of came out of nowhere. I was not expecting this one, but I really enjoyed it. And talking to me on this episode is Rosa from Latinx Lens. It's always great to have Rosa back on the show, and we have a great conversation about the 40-year-old version. So that is coming up in a second. As always, I want to remind you to make sure you are subscribed. Make sure... Oh, my cat just jumped on me. Lily Bear, say hi to everybody. Make sure you are following us over on social media at Piecing Pod. Join our Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, where we continue the conversation about all the movies we talk about here on the show. And last but not least, don't forget we have a Patreon. Our Patreon is called Produced by David Rosen, and that is because it pulls in a bunch of great content from this podcast, from my music career, from Awesome Movie Year, the other movie podcast that I produce, as well as All Rice No Beans, and who knows what else is going to end up on there in the coming months. But we just posted a new special Awesome Movie Year episode on Saturday Night Fever, which is a great bonus episode. You guys should really check that out. And of course, I always post early advanced episodes of Piecing It Together to check out. And I've got a bunch of music stuff hitting there very soon. Some already hit and some coming soon. I'm actually recording this in advance. This will go up in early November. It is currently still towards the end of October. It's not even Halloween yet, but you're going to be hearing this whenever you're hearing it, and lots of great content over there on the Patreon, lots of great content coming to Piecing It Together, and my new album, David Rosen, is out now, so go check that out as well. Anyway, let's get into this conversation about the 40-year-old version. All right, so back with us today. It was a while before she came back to the show, but now it's only been like a month, I feel like. Rosa is back with us. How you doing, Rosa?
Hi, hello. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me back. I just hope you don't get tired of me.
Never. Always happy to have you on the show, and I'm excited about this one. This is going to be a fun movie to talk about. It's a very interesting one, and you kind of brought this one to my attention. Actually, you had been like really championing this film since you first saw it, the 40-year-old version, and I hadn't even heard of it up until you brought it up. But it is pretty damn good. When did you first see this?
Yes, I've been championing since I walked out of that screening over at Sundance earlier this year, which seems like decades ago.
Yeah, seriously.
Yes, I saw it over at Sundance back in January, and I just fell in love with it. I was able. It spoke to me on different levels, and I'm glad. I'm really glad that it's getting critically acclaimed. Makes me affirm that I do have a good eye for films, I guess, in a sense.
Sure.
But it also speaks volumes of how needed it is to have diverse voices and diverse visions on screen, because this is such a nuanced on so many levels that I'm pretty sure that's one of the main reasons why I stuck with me. So, but yes, no, I'm glad you took up on the offer and you watched it and you enjoyed it. It really makes me happy you watched it and liked it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's such a relatable movie. And I mean, of course, I'm not a woman, I'm not a person of color, but I am an artist and I did just turn 40. And there's so much that's
Oh,
relatable in this movie for me as well, as much as it is for people who relate in other ways as well. It's just a great story and a great performance and written and directed by its star, Radha Blank. And it is, yeah, it's going to be a fun one for us to talk about. So, I think we should just jump right in. We'll have plenty to say. What do you got for your first puzzle piece?
yes. So, for my first puzzle piece, I have a 2020 film that I'm
Okay.
not particularly sure if it may have influenced the making of this movie or not, but it was one of the first films that came to mind
Hmm.
while watching this one as well, and that is 2020's Vampires versus the Bronx.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's written and directed by Oswani Rodriguez. And I don't know, have you had a chance to watch it? It's on Netflix.
I haven't.
No,
I heard a
no,
lot of
okay.
people talking about it, though.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so I'll try to not spoil as much. But pretty much it's just a group. It's like a comedy horror film following a group of teens who are out to protect the neighborhood
Hmm.
of the Bronx, of course, from vampire invasion, which is a metaphor for gentrification. And
Gotcha.
it spoke on so many levels. It reminded me so much on this, of course, depicting and highlighting that theme of gentrification, and of course the location in New York as well, and seeing that community, the sense of community going around in the movie. And the kids are very adorable and very fun to watch on the screen, which aren't that far behind, and are very reminiscent of Radha's students for the 40-year-old version. Very a lot of similarities amongst them. um what else? Certainly, of course, a social commentary, and yeah, like I said, it's on Netflix. 2020 film. If you can watch it, it'll probably be a perfect timing for it, right around Halloween. But it's
Right,
certainly
right.
a film that I found a lot of similarities with. And again, it's told, the narrative, the vision, the lens, through a person of color. Although the
Hmm.
40-year-old version is told to a woman of color's view, Vampires in the Bronx is told through also a person of color. Um, the lens and such. So certainly a perspective that needs to be heard, and it's
Sure, sure.
unfortunately very underrepresented.
Right, right. Well, that's such an interesting puzzle piece to kick it off with because it's like obviously the genre is so different, but then it's dealing with those specific issues and in such a unique way. And one that I didn't put on my list, but I considered putting on my list was The Last Black Man in San Francisco, which also
Mm.
like another very different movie, but that also has to do with gentrification and the changing times of that particular neighborhood. And so yeah, it's an interesting thing that's kind of in the ether right now that like people are wanting to talk about in unique different ways.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I also was thinking about Last Black Man in San Francisco, but yeah, I had to leave it out too.
Well, I'll go on to my first piece, and I'm going to talk a little bit. Like I said, I relate so much on the artist point of view here, and I'm going to go with the Coen Brothers Inside Llewyn Davis, which is another movie that deals with a character who has had these successes along the way of their career, but there's a very real thing for artists where you can have all these little successes along the way, and they don't quite add up to the fulfilling career that you're looking for that really like gives you the full amount of success that you're hoping for out of your life and out of your work and out of your career. And there's a great line in the film where she tells the kids, don't think just because you created something people will appreciate it. And it's just absolutely true. Speaking as an artist, it is so it's so difficult to get your work not just heard or seen or whatever, but appreciated in the way that it maybe sometimes deserves, and the way that Llewyn Davis in Inside Llewyn Davis is always just on the cusp of breaking through to that next level, but not quite getting there. And we see Radha here not quite getting to that next level, despite clearly having the talent to get there and clearly being recognized at times through her career, but still just not quite breaking through.
Yeah, I have not seen the film,
Hmm.
but based on your description, certainly it's piqued my interest. And yeah, yeah, it's certainly her as her talent and her as an artist, as a screenplay, as a writer. It was very at times to me very frustrating to watch.
Right.
The amount of talent she does carry, yeah, she keeps getting like not let through. So it was certainly something.
Yeah, and I was worried at the beginning because hip hop and film can be sometimes a little bit of a dicey thing. Like sometimes the songs really just aren't there, even though the character is meant to be portrayed as good at hip hop, you know.
Hmm.
But like as soon as she broke into poverty porn, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, she's good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
So what do you have for your next piece?
Okay, so my next piece is a film from 1982. It's titled Losing Ground, and it's written and directed by Kathleen Collins.
Hmm.
I just recently discovered this film while I was trying to do my research for the episode, and I was just blown away
Hmm.
by the film overall, but also that this is one of the first ever full feature films to be directed by an African American woman.
Hmm.
So before I knew it and I finished the film and I was jotting down my notes, I realized that this film had a lot of similarities, and I can see how a film like this one can pave the way for future films. For many Black women directors currently working in the industry. So, what this film is about, it follows a married couple, a couple, and they're both intellectuals. It's Sarah and Victor. Sarah is a philosophy professor, and she is very smart, highly educated, and her husband, he is a painter and very more and very successful as well. And I was taken aback, and I was a bit shocked to see an 80s film depicting a Black married couple just as intellectuals, and
Hmm.
just see them struggle and go through their own journey, and not necessarily see them either through of course portrayed as either slaves or anything like that. That's very much stereotypical that we tend to
Right.
associate with the Black community. So yeah, the film, Sarah, she's a professor, very much like Radha Blank, and who also has her student admirers, which certainly was hilarious watching in the 40-year version. And then
Sure.
so eventually this couple they embark on a journey to find and discover and try to understand ecstasy and joy, where Sarah takes a more intellectual, book smart approach to it by literally conducting research, going to the library, reading as much into it. Her husband takes a different approach to it and goes more of a lived in, earthly, physical approach to the journey. And it's also a sense of discovering yourself, discovering what you understand, discovering it's just who you are, which again for an 80s film was very much, I was mind blown by this movie. And what else? Yeah, the dynamic between Sarah and Victor very much similar to Radha and Dee, where they both come from different backgrounds. They both have different visions. Their outlook and such come from, of course, different interests.
Hmm.
So certainly a movie I highly, highly recommend watching. I was lucky to find it over at Criterion. But yes, it's 1982's Losing Ground, and highly recommended, and definitely a film that I can see had us could have inspired White Blank on in every manner. Not only giving her that motivation and that inspiration to be able to direct and write her own film, but also to portray social issues and depict and also the artistic elements that are incorporated in both films were very much similar.
Right.
So yeah, definitely a film that I can see very much being influential to the making and the existence of the 40-year-old version.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't seen it. It sounds great, and yeah, it is awesome that we're seeing more and more representation, and not just like you said in that like classic stereotypical Hollywood version of representation, but with like
Right.
real original, unique stories and stuff like that. That is awesome that we're getting more of that, and whereas it's you know traditionally been just one here and there that doesn't really get to tell the full story. So that is
Right.
awesome. So speaking of representation, I am going to go for my next puzzle piece and talk a little about Spike Lee because somebody who has been doing a lot of representing over the years, but I specifically was going to zero in on Do the Right Thing,
Yep, that's my third
which
piece.
was it as well? Okay. Yeah, I mean, you've got all the talking to the camera. You got that just
Yes.
feeling of the Indies 90, kind of feeling, and I think it's impossible to not bring up with this movie. It definitely feels like that. And Radha has worked with Spike Lee before on his what is it? She's Gotta Have It, I believe, is the series that she worked on with him. But which I actually haven't seen. I just know in my reading reviews of her work.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, Do the Right Thing is so good. And I mean, really, when it comes down to it, who hasn't been inspired by Do the Right Thing or Spike Lee in
Yes.
general?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it could just be Spike Lee, director, and his entire filmography, or just what he stands for. But yes, my third piece was also Do the Right Thing, but by him. The location as well, and highlighting the sense of community as well. Of course, talking to the audience, the camera, and I think Radha Blank very much uses the location and the city of New York, as another character, because if you take this film and you place it elsewhere, it completely changes.
Sure.
It's certainly a whole different movie and a whole different interpretation of it. So yes, and I think any director, particularly Spike Lee, who uses their location in the cities as an additional character, and then you get to not only know that the film and the story, it's taking place in that particular city, but you also get to see a more genuine version, and you get to see how like ordinary people are very much just living their everyday lives in these cities.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean almost nothing captures that as much as Do the Right Thing, and
Yeah.
and I think that they do a really great job here as well, which is really impressive for her first time out. I believe it's her debut as a director.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
And she
so
won
that
the
is
award over
impressive.
at Sundance too for Best Director.
This has been such a great year for directorial debuts.
Yes.
It seems like every other episode of this show we're talking about somebody who's coming out for the first time, and a lot of really great work this year.
Yeah, yes. And again, we can just talk about the 40-year-old version like for 5, 6 hours, and I'm still fascinated. I've seen the movie several times already after I saw it at Sundance, and just the bare thought that she wrote it and she directed it and she produced it and she starred in it, it's just mind-boggling, and it speaks volumes of the amount of talent Rita Blank has. And I've been
Yeah,
saying it since January. You're not gonna forget her name. It's a name. It's an artist. She's a woman who's easily memorable.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'm going to go on to my next piece here, and I'm actually going to kind of combine a few things. Basically, I feel in a lot of ways this movie does feel like you're hanging out with a creative person during their process,
Hmm.
and it reminded me a lot of. There's a lot of these series that have come out over the last 10 years. They all kind of emulated Curb Your Enthusiasm, I think, originally, but then we had stuff like Louie, Crashing, Master of None. Atlanta, and then I'm going to specifically speak to Dave, the comedy series with the rapper Lil Dicky, the very goofy white rapper
Mhm.
who is on the other end of the spectrum of people you wouldn't expect to be good rappers. And then once they show off their skills, everybody around is like takes notice, like, oh my God, this person has the skills, you know? And
Mhm.
so I'm going to, even though all those other ones are, I think, also influential on this kind of a story, I think Dave is the one that I'm going to use as the main puzzle piece here, just because you really don't expect much out of Little Dicky. And then once he starts flowing, you know, like, oh, okay, this guy's got it. And the same thing with Radha. Once she really opens up and starts going for it, it's like
Yeah.
even that producer is like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I haven't seen any of it, but yeah, it seems very much down the same, very, very similar to Brenna's journey.
Absolutely. So, did you have any other pieces?
No, I only had 3.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
Vampires
I've
vs.
got
the
one
Bronx.
more.
Oh yeah, let's hear
Okay. Yeah, I'll
it.
finish it up. One last
Yeah.
piece here. And that's a movie from a few years ago called Blind Spotting. Uh,
Oh,
great movie. And
smart.
I think mainly the fact that it all builds up to the main character letting their frustrations out in rhyme form. I think is like the main reason
Ah.
why I thought of that, especially for this movie as a puzzle piece, because that is where of course her journey is going to go to letting it all out in the form of rap in front of everybody. And that scene is shot so well, it's just like, oh, she's going to do it, like that she's about to start rapping, and you're waiting for it, and then she lets it out, and it's awesome. And that moment where the main character in Blind Spotting just lets all that frustration out through rap is just so cathartic and well done. And I thought it absolutely parallels how this movie ends as well.
Oh my god, that's such a I had not thought about that. But yes, you're absolutely right. Good choice. Yes, yes. Blind Spotting is one of the most underrated and films of any time. No, not a lot of people appreciate or have even heard of it or even seen it. But yes, just to express your frustration in that form, it certainly it speaks volumes. It speaks volumes, and it certainly delivers certain messages. It sends that message that not all of us express our frustration with violence or anything
Sure.
or any malicious intent. Um, but yes, I had not thought about that. You're so oh my god, I'm so glad you brought it up.
And while we're on the topic of David Diggs,
Yes.
might as well bring up Hamilton as well, even though it's not really a puzzle piece, but I mean we do have a hip hop musical in this movie, so.
Yeah, true, true. Yeah, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to go ahead and do the finished puzzle for the 40-year-old version, and then we'll
Mhm.
get into some closing thoughts here. But the
Yes.
movies we talked about included Vampires vs. the Bronx, Inside Llewyn Davis, Losing Ground, Do the Right Thing, and Spike Lee in general. Dave and a bunch of other TV series that follow around creative people, and Blind Spotting. So that is our finished puzzle. Is there any other like major, points or ideas within this movie that we didn't quite get to while talking about the puzzle pieces?
Hmm. Um, I don't know if there's anything major that I can uh think at the moment, but if you have not seen the 40-year-old version, I don't understand where you've been or why not. Or obviously they don't follow me because I've been talking about this forever. I'm
Right.
pretty sure people have been tired of me just championing the film. But yeah, no, no, go watch this film. It's certainly a movie, a story worth knowing, but also it's a movie that again, to me, it connected on so many levels, and with Radha, still coping with the loss of her mother. I think that one is the one that got to me the most. She has this moment, this one scene where she's just sitting in the bed, and then it's just that moment that very relatable, that it really took me and it hit me in the core, and I was able to certainly I was just moved by it. And then just to see her journey, the journey of a woman of color written and told, and through her own vision, through her own words, through her own experience, it's certainly something worth also discovering and checking out. I loved the dynamic she had with her best friend.
Yeah, yeah, it's great.
And I did appreciate the fact that that point where you get that little in every movie, like the third act or the end of the second act, you get this fight or something that goes wrong, and in this case is her fight and her confrontation with her best friend, where you would expect mostly to have it with her romantic character. No, her relationship with her best friend is as important, if not more, than
Right.
her romantic one. And again, it is frustrating to see everything, all the obstacles and the additional obstacles she has to overcome and she has to go through simply for the color of her skin, and let's be real, her gender. So and just again, a movie that's gonna speak at least to half of the populations. As we're we're all women, and at one point or another, we're gonna reach a lot of these real life scenarios, either physically in a biological and anatomical aspect of it, or other things, and also to see it happen in a city like New York is also refreshing to watch as well. Um,
Absolutely.
I was also a big fan of her relationship with her students, and how that relationship she had with them, and then the students were also fun to watch. It's just like a funny film overall. Just her acting, her delivery, just perfect comedic timing. Certainly, again, I can't shut up about this film. Certainly a movie. Go watch it if you haven't watched it. But yes, it's certainly a movie. At the moment, as I'm recording this, I think it's my second favorite film of 2020. So it's
Nice.
certainly up there for me.
Awesome. But speaking of the relationship with the best friend,
Yeah.
I love when she says that she's thinking about doing hip hop and he asks, doing what to it? That's such a good line. but but yeah, no, it's everything you just said. It's such a just such a rich layered movie. There's so much going on with the character, and all of those different angles that it's coming at. And one last thing I just wanted to mention, we can't wrap it up without, the comparison to Judd Apatow's work. I mean, obviously the title of the film being a
Yeah.
kind of play on the 40-year-old virgin, and then
Yeah.
also I think you could definitely get This Is 40 in there as well, maybe even a little bit of Funny People because of the creative aspect. And I think that she's probably pretty influenced by that kind of a Judd Apatow world as well, because I mean, you do get these characters who tend to be in creative situations and the struggles that they go through as well. So I just love that this movie is so it's not only coming from these underserved, diverse communities, kind of showcasing that, but also showcasing the creative aspects. So there's just so much going on in this movie, and it's really balanced so well.
Yeah, and I don't we haven't even talked about the cinematography and the black and white aspect of it,
It's
which
true.
which I think was brilliantly done. It works. It works for me, and I loved it. I certainly loved it. Cinematography is top notch, and again, it's certainly go watch the 40 version.
Please watch the movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
So, I think that about does it, though. Is there another movie you watched recently that you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
Hmm. You know what? I don't know if this has ever happened for you before, but I'm gonna select my second piece, my puzzle piece, Losing Ground. Um,
Okay.
which I was able to find it over on Criterion. It's certainly a movie I highly recommend watching for of course the reasons I just gave earlier in the episode.
Mhm.
But it's a movie that not many people, I'm pretty sure not a lot of people have heard about, yet it's such a groundbreaking movie in every sense, in every aspect, from the writer, from directing, from the characters and the narrative overall. Certainly a movie that has stayed with me, and I just recently watched it a few days ago, yet I'm still thinking about it. I'm still thinking of how was I not introduced or not informed about this film, even though it was made in the 80s? Certainly a gem for independent cinema back in the day. But
Nice.
yeah, worth. I highly recommend seeing it. I think last time I checked, it was 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure not that many people have seen it. So,
Right, right.
yeah, definitely Losing Ground, 1982 by Kathleen Collins, and I found it on Criterion, so I don't know where else.
I'm actually thinking about having myself a little Rosa approved puzzle piece double feature later this week. Watch Vampires vs. the Bronx and Losing Ground, so I could catch both those movies
Ooh,
because they both
yeah,
sound really interesting from how you brought them up. So,
yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, now I'm
well,
flattered, and I hope
uh,
they meet your expectations.
I'm sure they will. So, why don't you tell people where they can find you and your work and your podcast and all that?
Yeah, so at the moment, we've been in a little hiatus with Latinx Lens. We haven't uploaded anything actually on almost a month. But we're coming back. We're working on it. Yeah, you can find us on every social media platform, Latinx Lens. Our podcast is also available on every podcast platform. As for me, you can also find me on every social media platform: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Rosa's Reviews.
Beautiful. Well, Rosa, thank you so much for joining me again. And I knew this would be a fun one to talk about, and I'm glad we did it.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me back, for being brave enough to have me back. Not once, not twice, but three times. And
We'll
it's
make it happen again. We'll make it
oh,
happen
I hope
again.
so. I'll be waiting for it. But no, it's always fun to chat with you. And again, you're amazing. You're awesome, and I love coming on.
I'm Jesse.
And I'm Ryan, and we're the hosts of Not My Type. One couple, two personalities, and we're taking 3 million internet quizzes.
Approximately. For non-serious conversations about serious fandoms, check us out at Not My Type. Each episode we take BuzzFeed-style quizzes to explore a movie, TV series, or a book.
As many fandoms as we can get our hands on. New episodes come out each Wednesday, and if you want to find out more about the show, go to notmytypepod.com and anywhere podcasts are found.
Pretty much everywhere these days. See you there.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that conversation about the 40-year-old version. I don't talk about my comedy rap stuff very often, but this is a good opportunity to tell two quick things. Number one is that even though I've, for the most part, stopped doing that stuff because it's horribly offensive and completely ridiculous and at odds with everything I've been trying to build my career around, I do still plan on putting out another D-Mize Dee Rockz album at some point, and it's called In Our 40s. And it's supposed to capture the moment of our life where we're still comedy rappers in our 40s. But on the album cover, we're going to be trapped in a 40-ounce malt liquor bottle. So in our 40s. It's a play on words. You get it? And also, I talked about how much I identified with this movie, despite, it obviously being a woman of color. But from the artistic point of view of this movie, another just quick story, if you're still listening at the 33-minute mark of this episode, I'll tell you, with that comedy rap stuff, we used to do shows here in Las Vegas all the time where we'd perform those songs on stage, and we had quite a bit of a very ridiculous local following going on. But I would always be stone cold sober for that stuff because I really just couldn't perform if I was drunk or anything like that, and especially not if I had partaken in any weed or anything, like the scene where Radha has stage fright after getting high backstage. That did happen at one particular show at the Double Down Saloon here in Las Vegas, and it was the only time I ever smoked weed before a show, and it was an absolute disaster. It was almost like what happened in this movie. Just completely froze up. Couldn't remember a single word. I think I said yo like 5,000 times. It was an awful experience. And I don't smoke very often anymore. Possibly partially because of that. Anyway, that's enough about me. I want to thank you all for listening to Piecing It Together. If you're enjoying the show, I'd love it if you'd rate and review us over on Apple Podcasts or Podchaser. Of course, make sure you're subscribed to Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts. We've got so many episodes on the way, and I want to make sure you get to check them out. Lots of great guests coming up, lots of great movies we're covering. And if you're subscribed, you'll know about it as soon as the new episodes come up. You could also follow us on social media at Piecing Pod. Join the Facebook group Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces. And don't forget about that Patreon I told you about at the top of the show. So, I do have this new album, David Rosen, that just came out. And I'm going to keep promoting it. I've got the music video Multiply. I'm recording this October 25th. I'm not sure. There might be another music video out by the time this goes up. If it's already out, check it out on my YouTube channel. If it's not out, I'll tell you about it next week. I'm not sure. That's what happens when you record these things in advance. You really can't be sure if things that are supposed to happen get done or not. But anyway, I do want to remind you, though, that David Rosen is available now on all the major music apps. You could, of course, stream it on Spotify or Apple Music. You could also buy it in a limited edition CD form over on Bandcamp. And, of course, buy it as a download if anybody still does that on iTunes and Amazon and all those other kinds of sites. So I do appreciate your support, and I am really very proud of the album, so please do check it out. And I think I might as well close this episode out with a track from that album. And let's see here. You know what? I'm going to play the most kind of hip-hop-ish track on this album. Well, actually, that's not true. There's a couple of tracks on this album that have a little bit of a hip-hop energy to it, but I'm going to go with this track, Deep Breaths, which I think definitely I could picture someone rapping to, and I don't know, maybe Radha would like this track to write a new song to. So anyway, this is called Deep Breaths. It's on my new album, David Rosen. Enjoy it, and we'll be back with more Piecing It Together coming out real soon. Hey guys, Dave here again. And you know what? I just decided that you've listened this far. I might as well play one of those comedy rap songs I was talking about because it's just such a perfect fit here. This is a D-Mize Dee Rockz song called Snooze. It's one of the cleaner things that we've done. I do not encourage you to go check out any of our other music, but this song I think would be a really good fit. So enjoy Snooze, and we'll be back with more Piecing It Together coming up real soon.
Snooze. Snooze. Aw, fuck it. Snooze. Snooze. I didn't like that motherfucking job anyway.
1, 2, 3 in the place to be. It's Jewish D-A-V to the E in my B-E-D. Nothing could be better than Egyptian sheets. Laying next to two puppies and a pair of butt cheeks. And I hear the clock go, oh no, wanna make time fly, throw it out the window. Cause I don't give a shit or even a goddamn. Only reason to wake up is so that I could go ham on an omelet or McGriddle. Damn it, I was in the middle of an excellent adventure going on in my head. And all from the comfort of my nice warm bed. Sleep with the fan on, but I ain't got no pants on. When it comes to sleeping, you know I am the man, son. I mean, damn, son, only got 9 hours and I want a few more. 9 minutes at a time is what that little fucking button is for. You know it goes
Snooze. Snooze. Aw, fuck it. Snooze. Snooze. I didn't like that motherfucking job anyway.
flying through the air, I got superpowers. Punching planes to the ground, I could do this for hours. And just as I'm about to do some super cool shit, all of a sudden I slap the top of my clock and try to get back to sleep. The next thing I know, I'm in Charlie Sheen's wet dream, surrounded by babes and I'm the only guy there, throwing $100 bills up in the air. A girl walks up to me, unbuttons her shirt. She pulls up her skirt and then fuck, I know I gotta get up, I got a meeting today. But does it really matter if I'm a little bit late? I pick up the phone so I could call my boss. I can't stop coughing and my stomach's in knots. I keep throwing up and I can't stop pooping. But the truth is I just wanna keep snoozing.
Snooze. Snooze. Aw, fuck it. Snooze. Snooze. I didn't like that motherfucking job anyway. Snooze. Aw, fuck it. Snooze. Snooze. I didn't like that motherfucking job anyway.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.